Atlanta heat clung to Marcus Green's skin like glue. 14 years old, carrying nothing more than a cold orange soda for his little sister, he walked the cracked sidewalks toward home. His mother was working her second shift that night, and his sister was waiting with the kind of hunger that only kids know. Marcus had learned young how to keep his head down, how to survive in a neighborhood where sirens were louder than lullabies. But even in that roughness, he carried a dream bigger than the walls around him. "One day I'll change everything for my family," he always whispered to himself. That night, fate answered in the strangest way. As Marcus cut through a back alley to save time, his sneaker hit something hard. He looked down and froze. A phone. Sleek, shiny, expensive, nothing like the busted flip phones his neighbors carried. Its screen lit up, glowing with a picture of a chandelier so grand, it looked like it belonged in another world. And then it rang. Marcus's hands trembled as he picked it up. On the screen, a name flashed. Cassandra Whitmore. He swiped, hesitating only for a second. "Hello?" His voice cracked. On the other end, a woman's voice exploded, desperate, shaking. "Who is this? Where's my husband?" Marcus swallowed. I just found this phone." There was silence. Then her voice dropped into something low and urgent. "If you have that phone, my husband is in danger. And now, so are you." Marcus's world tilted. The orange soda dripped cold against his fingers. He had no idea this single call would rip him out of childhood and into a fight that billionaires and killers had been playing long before he was born. Far from the cracked streets of Atlanta, Cassandra Whitmore paced her mansion's polished floors. Marble stretched beneath her heels, chandeliers glistened above her, but all that wealth couldn't quiet her trembling hands. Her husband, Alexander Whitmore, wasn't just rich. He was powerful. He controlled skyscrapers in New York, luxury resorts in Miami, and had friends in politics that most Americans only saw on TV. But power came with enemies, and Alexander had made plenty. Cassandra's voice shook as she clutched the phone to her ear. "Listen to me," she told Marcus. "That phone holds secrets, dangerous secrets. People will kill for it. If you have it, you're already a target." Marcus froze in that alley, heart hammering. He thought of his mother working herself to the bone. He thought of his little sister waiting at home. Trouble was the last thing his family needed. Still, something about Cassandra's voice cut through his fear. Behind the money and the polished words, there was raw panic. She wasn't acting. She was terrified. "What's your name?" she asked. "Marcus." Her tone softened, almost like a mother begging her own son. "Marcus, listen to me. Stay alive tonight. Don't trust anyone. Call me back before midnight. Promise me." Marcus hesitated, then whispered, "I promise." The line went dead. And before Marcus could even move, headlights swung into the alley. A black SUV crept toward him, its engine growling low, its tinted windows hiding whoever sat inside. Marcus didn't need to think. His instincts screamed. He bolted, the phone clutched tight in his hand, as voices shouted from behind. The chase had begun. The sound of his sneakers slapping against the cracked pavement echoed louder than his heartbeat. Marcus tore through the back streets of Atlanta like a rabbit chased by wolves. Behind him, the black SUV rolled slow and steady, like a predator that already knew it would win. "Hey, stop right there!" a deep voice barked from the car window. Marcus didn't look back. He cut between two houses, squeezing through a narrow fence opening he had used 100 times when playing tag with his friends. His chest burned, but fear kept his legs moving. The SUV braked hard. 2 men stepped out. One was tall and scarred, a jagged line across his cheek. His eyes were cold, empty. The other was heavy-set, tattoos crawling up his neck like snakes. "Kid's fast," the tattooed one muttered. Scarface sneered. "Doesn't matter, we'll get him. Orders are clear. Bring the phone, no witnesses." Marcus ducked behind a dumpster, hands shaking as he clutched the strange phone. His mind raced. Why me? Why now? He had never stolen anything, never been in real trouble. Yet here he was, hunted by men who looked like killers. From his hiding spot, he could hear their footsteps crunching against the gravel. The scarred man's voice was calm, too calm. "Come out, boy. Don't make this worse. You don't know what you're holding." Marcus bit his lip hard, fighting tears. Every sound felt louder, the creak of a screen door nearby, the hum of the SUV's engine. If they found him, he was finished. Suddenly a dog barked down the block. The men turned their heads for just a moment. Marcus seized it. He bolted out the opposite way, slipping through another alley, sprinting until his lungs screamed. By the time he reached his apartment building, sweat soaked his shirt, and fear gripped him tighter than the phone in his hand. He rushed upstairs, slamming the door behind him. His mother, Denise, looked up from the kitchen, tired from her double shift. "Boy, where you been? You had me worried sick." Marcus forced a shaky smile. "Sorry, Ma. Got held up." She shook her head and went back to cooking, not noticing his trembling hands. Marcus slipped into his room and shoved the phone under his mattress. That night he couldn't sleep. Every car that drove by sounded like death pulling up to the curb. While Marcus lay awake in Atlanta, Cassandra Whitmore was pacing her grand estate miles away in New York. Her mansion looked like it belonged in a magazine. Columns, fountains, chandeliers dripping with crystals. But the beauty of it only mocked her. What use was wealth when her husband might already be dead? She poured herself a drink, though her hands trembled too much to lift the glass without spilling. Her mind replayed the message she had received hours ago. "We have him. You know the price." Alexander Whitmore wasn't an easy man to love. He was powerful, brilliant, and ruthless. He had built his empire by crushing anyone who stood in his way. Cassandra had begged him to slow down, to spend more time with her, to value life more than money. He never listened. Now, she feared his empire would cost him his life. She stared at her reflection in the glass window. Her expensive diamond necklace glittered, but she felt no pride in it. It was a chain, a reminder that she had married into a world of power where betrayal was as common as breathing. And now, with Alexander missing, she didn't know who to trust. Not his business partners, not the police, not even his so-called friends in government. She had seen too much to believe any of them would save him. Her phone buzzed again. Another text. "The boy has the phone. Get it back. Midnight." Her stomach dropped. Marcus. The child who had picked up that call. He had no idea what he had stepped into. For a brief moment, guilt pierced through her fear. She had dragged an innocent boy into her husband's mess. But she had no choice. Without that phone, she couldn't bargain. Without that phone, Alexander was already gone. She whispered into the empty room, almost like a prayer. "Stay alive, Marcus." The next morning, Marcus sat on his bed, staring at the phone hidden under his pillow. He hadn't slept a minute. His stomach growled, but food was the last thing on his mind. His best friend Jalen dropped by, tossing a basketball from hand to hand. "Yo, why you looking like you seen a ghost?" For a brief moment, guilt pierced through her fear. She had dragged an innocent boy into her husband's mess. But she had no choice. Without that phone, she couldn't bargain. Without that phone, Alexander was already gone. She whispered into the empty room almost like a prayer. "Stay alive, Marcus." The next morning, Marcus sat on his bed, staring at the phone hidden under his pillow. He hadn't slept a minute. His stomach growled, but food was the last thing on his mind. His best friend Jalen dropped by, tossing a basketball from hand to hand. "Yo, why you looking like you seen a ghost?" Marcus shrugged, hiding the phone behind his back. But Jalen's sharp eyes caught the movement. "What's that?" "Hold up, let me see." Reluctantly, Marcus showed him. Jalen's jaw dropped. "Bro, that's not from around here. That thing's worth some serious cash. Pawn shop will eat that up." Marcus shook his head. "I can't. It belongs to someone. And it's trouble. Jalen laughed. Man, you watch too many crime movies. It's just a phone. Sell it, split the money, boom, easy. But Marcus wasn't laughing. Cassandra's voice echoed in his head. That phone holds things people will kill for. When Jalen left, Marcus gave in to curiosity. He pressed the fingerprint scanner. Shockingly, it unlocked. His eyes widened. Inside were encrypted emails, strange files, and recordings. One recording caught his breath. Alexander Whitmore's voice. If they find out, I'm dead. Cassandra can never know the truth about Miami. Marcus froze. Miami. What did that mean? The weight of it all pressed down on him. He was just a kid, but somehow he was sitting on evidence worth killing for. His mom in the other room had no idea. His sister laughed in front of the TV, innocent to the danger circling their home. Marcus whispered to himself, gripping the phone. What did I just get into? Michael didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Eleanor's pale face, the duct tape across her mouth, the fear in her eyes. But one thought haunted him more than the image itself. How did a random child know about this before he did? By sunrise, he was back at his desk, flipping through old files and trying to connect the dots. His late-night digging had revealed something terrifying. 2 years ago, Eleanor had been the lead attorney on a lawsuit that exposed secret government surveillance contracts with private tech companies. She won that case, forcing the shutdown of a billion-dollar program. But what Michael didn't know until now was that the very people Eleanor had challenged hadn't disappeared. They'd just gone underground. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again. It was the same boy. His voice trembled but was steady enough to deliver another gut punch. Sir, they know you're looking. They said if you don't stop, they'll hurt her tonight. Michael's hand froze on the desk. Who are they? He demanded. The line went silent for a long stretch. Then in a whisper the boy said, They call themselves the Silent Watchers. Michael's blood ran cold. He had heard that name once before, buried in old court transcripts. A shadow group accused of spying not just on enemies, but on ordinary Americans, politicians, and even children. The case was dismissed for lack of evidence. Now it wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was flesh and blood reality. Michael realized he couldn't fight this alone. He needed allies. And not just anyone. He needed someone who could match the power of the Watchers. That's when he thought of Raymond Drake, a billionaire tech mogul known for funding whistleblowers. Michael had met him once, briefly, at a charity gala, where Eleanor had given a fiery speech on justice. Raymond had shaken his hand and said, If you ever need me, call. So Michael did. The line connected after 3 rings, and Raymond's deep, commanding voice came through. I know why you're calling, Raymond said before Michael could speak. They've taken Eleanor, haven't they? Michael froze. How do you know? Because they've been watching me too, Raymond admitted. And I've been waiting for the day they'd cross the line. Your wife's case made her dangerous. But her disappearance? That makes them sloppy. Michael clenched his jaw. So what do we do? Raymond's voice lowered. We expose them, but we need to be careful. These people own police departments, judges, even senators. One wrong move and we're both dead. Meet me tonight at my estate. Bring no one, not even your closest friend. Michael hesitated, torn between fear and desperation. But he knew one thing. If he didn't go, Eleanor's blood would be on his hands. What Michael didn't know was that someone had already leaked his phone call to the very enemies he was planning to fight. And by the time he set foot on Raymond's estate, the Watchers had already set a trap. Now, Jaden, do you want me to continue flowing into chapters 8 and 9, making it even more layered with conspiracy, betrayal, and suspense? Or should I pause here so you can review the pacing and structure first? Michael's car wound up the steep driveway toward Raymond Drake's estate. The mansion loomed like a fortress, surrounded by tall iron gates and security cameras that followed every move. Inside, Raymond greeted him with a cold smile. The billionaire was tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp eyes that could read a man's soul. "Welcome, Michael. Tonight, you will see how deep this rabbit hole goes." Michael stepped inside. On the walls were screens showing surveillance footage from across the country. Crowded subways, schools, even private homes. "You see?" Raymond said, gesturing to the screens. "The Watchers aren't just spying on leaders. They're spying on everyone, including you." Michael's stomach tightened. "Then why haven't you stopped them?" Raymond's eyes darkened. "Because I can't fight them alone. They own half of Washington, but with Eleanor, with her case files, we can bring them down." Michael's heart skipped. "You think she's still alive?" Raymond looked him dead in the eyes. "They need her alive, for now. But if you don't act fast, she'll become expendable." That night, as Michael pored over Eleanor's old case files in Raymond's study, something strange happened. Every security monitor suddenly went black. The mansion lights flickered. "Backup generator," Raymond muttered, reaching for his phone. But before he could dial, the windows shattered. Masked men in tactical gear stormed the estate, rifles raised. Michael hit the ground as bullets ripped through the room. Raymond fired back from a hidden drawer full of weapons. The firefight was brutal, glass flying everywhere. One of the masked men shouted, "Bring them alive!" Michael's blood froze. This wasn't a hit, it was a capture. By the time it was over, Raymond was bleeding from a wound to his shoulder, and Michael was dragged into a black van, his wrists zip-tied. The Watchers had him. When the blindfold came off, Michael found himself in a dark warehouse lit by a single overhead bulb. Across from him sat Eleanor, her face bruised but alive. Their eyes met. Tears welled in Michael's chest, but Eleanor shook her head subtly, warning him not to show weakness. A tall figure in a gray suit entered. His face was calm, his voice unnervingly polite. "Mr. Carter, or should I say, Mr. Problem." Michael spat at the floor. "If you hurt her, I swear." The man raised a hand. No, we don't want to hurt her. We want your cooperation. Eleanor knows things she should not. You, however, could be useful to us. Join us, or lose her forever." Michael's chest burned. Join them? The very people destroying innocent lives? Eleanor whispered, her voice hoarse. "Don't listen. They killed Daniel." Michael's jaw locked. Daniel was his younger brother, a war veteran who died under mysterious circumstances years ago. He had always suspected foul play. Now the truth was right in front of him. The Watchers had killed him. Michael didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He played along. "If I join, Eleanor lives?" The gray-suited man smiled. "Precisely." For days, Michael was kept in that warehouse, fed information about their operations. He saw files on senators blackmailed, CEOs controlled, children exploited. Each file was a nail in his heart. But something else happened too. He began to notice cracks in their system. The Watchers didn't trust each other. They were powerful, yes, but divided. Michael decided he would pretend to serve them. And when the time came, he would burn their empire to the ground. In the dark hours of captivity, Michael and Eleanor whispered to each other through the cracks in the wall. "Do you remember," Eleanor whispered, "when we swore never to bow to evil?" Michael squeezed her fingers through the gap. "I remember, and I won't." That night, Eleanor revealed something shocking. She had hidden copies of her court case files in a secret drive. Files that named every single politician and billionaire tied to the Watchers. "If we can get those files to the press," she whispered, "this all collapses." Michael's pulse quickened. Suddenly there was hope. On the 7th day, Michael heard a familiar voice echoing from outside the warehouse. A child's voice. Sir, it's me." It was the boy. Somehow, against all odds, he had followed the trail. He slipped Michael a small device, a burner phone. Whispering through the bars, he said, "Use this when they move you. They're planning something tomorrow." Michael's throat tightened. Why are you helping me? The boy's eyes filled with tears. Because they killed my sister. She tried to run. They said she knew too much. Michael realized then, the Watchers weren't just a conspiracy. They were monsters who destroyed families, and this boy had lost everything. The night in Atlanta carried a kind of silence Marcus wasn't used to. Usually the air outside his window rattled with cars blasting music, sirens bouncing across cracked streets, or the arguments of neighbors leaking through the walls. But tonight, it was too quiet. Too still. Marcus lay awake on his bed, the billionaire's phone hidden beneath his pillow. His mother, Denise, had worked late again and hadn't come home yet. His little sister was curled up in the next room, clutching a stuffed rabbit whose fur was worn thin. He wanted to protect her from everything, the gunshots that sometimes echoed outside, the empty fridge that made her cry, and now, the storm that came with this phone. He thought about Cassandra Whitmore's voice on the line, sharp, commanding, but trembling beneath the surface. She had warned him that he was already a target. She had begged him to hold on, to trust her. But then he had seen the folder, her messages with Damian Cortez, their late-night calls, their plans that didn't sound like saving Alexander but finishing him. Marcus rubbed his eyes. He was only 14. Why did he feel like he was carrying the weight of the entire world? That's when the knock came. 3 slow, heavy knocks at the front door. Marcus froze. Nobody came to their apartment this late, not unless it was trouble. He crept out of bed and peered through the blinds. A package sat on the porch. No person in sight. Just a small cardboard box with his last name scrawled across it. Green. His heart thudded. He opened the door carefully, picked it up, and carried it inside. The box was surprisingly heavy for its size. No return address, no shipping label, nothing but his name. On the kitchen table, he tore at the tape. The smell hit first, metallic, sharp. Inside was a blood-stained shirt, folded neatly as if mocking him, and under it, a photograph. Alexander Whitmore, bruised and bound to a chair, eyes staring dead at the camera. Marcus's stomach flipped. He nearly dropped the photo, but his fingers held tight as if it was the only proof the billionaire was still alive. Scribbled across the back in thick black marker were 4 words. Bring the phone. Alone. Marcus staggered back, gripping the edge of the table. His chest rose and fell like he'd just run 10 miles. Somebody knew where he lived. Somebody had walked right up to his door. His mother and sister were asleep, helpless, and he was holding a box of blood and threats. The phone buzzed suddenly, startling him. Cassandra again. He answered in a whisper. They know where I live. They sent me something. Something bad. Her breath crackled through the line. What was it? Marcus's voice shook. A shirt. Blood. A photo of your husband. They want me to bring the phone. Alone. A silence stretched across the line. Then Cassandra's voice turned soft, almost too calm. Marcus, listen to me. Don't tell anyone. Not your mother, not the police. If you want your family safe, you'll do what they say. Deliver the phone. Tonight. Marcus clenched his jaw. How do I even know you're not the one who sent it? Her tone sharpened. Because if it were me, Marcus, you'd already be dead. The line went dead. He sat in the dark kitchen, the photo and shirt spread out in front of him, his mind racing. He could hear his little sister's soft breathing through the thin walls, and that was what kept him from breaking down. He pulled the phone out from under his pillow and tapped at the screen again, digging deeper into the hidden folders. More recordings, more emails, some with dates and times stamped for meetings in Miami warehouses, some with photos of men he didn't recognize, but whose tattoos matched the ones on the men who had been tailing him near the library. Then he found one recording that froze him in place. Alexander's voice, hoarse, panicked. If Cassandra gets this message, tell her not to trust anyone, not even me. Miami isn't just business. It's the grave we both dug together. Marcus replayed it twice, his skin crawling. Alexander wasn't only in danger, he was tangled in something even bigger than Marcus had imagined. A noise outside snapped him back to reality. Tires screeched. He peeked out the window. The same black SUV he had seen before rolled slowly past his building, headlights cutting across the cracked pavement. Marcus's heart pounded. They were watching him. He snatched the phone and stuffed it into his backpack, then slid the blood-stained shirt and photo back into the box and shoved it deep into the closet. He couldn't let his mother see it. It would break her. He whispered to himself like a prayer. One day, I'll change everything. But tonight he didn't know if he would survive until morning. By dawn, Marcus hadn't slept a second. Every creak of the floorboards made him jump. When Denise finally came home, exhausted from her night shift, she kissed him on the forehead and said, "You okay, baby? You look pale." He nodded quickly. "Just tired, Ma." But inside, he was falling apart. At school that day, he pulled Jalen aside, the only person he trusted even a little. "Bro, I need help, but you can't tell anyone. Not your mom, not the teachers. Nobody." Jalen frowned. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Marcus opened his backpack just enough for Jalen to see the billionaire's phone. "Man," Jalen whispered, eyes wide. "You still got that thing? You're crazy. That's a death wish." Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. "They sent me a photo. He's still alive. But they want me to bring the phone tonight." Jalen backed up. "Nah, man, leave me out of this. I'm not trying to die over some rich dude's problems." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He had hoped Jalen would stand with him, but maybe this was too big for anyone else. When he got home, the phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Cassandra. It was a new number. A text message appeared. "Tonight. Train station locker 17. No cops, or your family dies." Marcus gripped the phone so tight his knuckles turned white. He looked at his little sister coloring on the floor, humming softly. She had no idea the storm circling their lives. He knew he couldn't ignore it. He would have to go. But he also knew this was more than a simple drop-off. This was a trap, and if he stepped into it, he might never come out alive. The rain had stopped hours ago, yet the streets of Washington still glistened as if the city itself was holding on to its tears. Marcus sat alone in his car, the engine humming quietly, the dashboard clock glowing red. 2:37 a.m. He hadn't slept in nearly 2 days, but his mind refused to shut down. Every word from that strange black boy on the phone replayed in his head. "Sir, are you Mrs. Eleanor's husband? I saw her tied up." That haunting phrase clung to him like a ghost. He wanted to dismiss it as a prank, some cruel trick, but deep inside Marcus knew too much had already happened for this to be a coincidence. He stared at his phone, scrolling through Eleanor's last text messages. They were mundane. Reminders about groceries, a photo of her laughing with their dog, a soft goodnight love. Nothing in those texts revealed the storm she was caught in. Nothing hinted at the chains, the voices, or the secrets that now wrapped their lives in barbed wire. Then, out of nowhere, Marcus heard it again. Not in the car, but in his head. A child's voice, shaky, urgent, terrified. "She doesn't have much time." His hands tightened on the wheel. Was he losing his mind? Or was this city itself conspiring to break him? The secret meeting. Marcus wasn't the kind of man who gave in to fear, but desperation has a way of reshaping even the strongest. So when his old friend, Congressman Harold Kent, had offered a meeting at this hour, Marcus drove without hesitation. Inside a dimly lit diner on the edge of Capitol Hill, Harold was already waiting. He looked older, his suit wrinkled, his eyes darting toward the shadows as though someone was always listening. "Marcus," Harold whispered, leaning forward, "I need you to listen carefully. What's happening to Eleanor isn't random. This goes deeper than you imagine." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "You know where she is?" Harold's jaw clenched. He glanced around the diner before speaking. "They're using her as leverage. The same people who fund surveillance contracts, the same people who lobby for data collection bills. Your wife stumbled into something she wasn't supposed to see. What do you mean? Marcus asked, his voice almost breaking. She found out about the program, Harold said, barely above a whisper. Marcus leaned back, confused. The program? Harold nodded gravely. An algorithm, built not just to track citizens but to predict behavior, to erase anyone who poses a risk before they can act. She wasn't supposed to know, and now, they're making sure she disappears. The tape. Harold slid a small recorder across the table. Play it when you're alone, and Marcus, trust no one. The word stung. Trust no one. Not even Harold, not the police, not the FBI. Marcus was a man who had built his life on structure and belief in the system. But now the very foundations of that system were cracking beneath his feet. Hours later, in the isolation of his car, Marcus pressed play. Static filled the silence, then voices. Cold, official voices. She knows. She's seen the files. Then she doesn't leave alive. What about the husband? Keep him dangling. Fear is leverage. Marcus's stomach turned. These weren't criminals in some dark alley. These were officials, people in power, the kind who wore suits and smiled for cameras while shaking hands with presidents. The betrayal, just as Marcus processed the horror, headlights flared in his rearview mirror. A black SUV. His instincts screamed at him. He pressed the gas, turning sharply into a narrow street. The SUV followed. He sped through intersections, heart pounding, until he ducked into a parking garage. He turned off the lights and held his breath. The SUV circled outside but didn't enter. For a moment, silence, relief. Then his phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. You can run, Marcus, but you can't hide. We're already inside your car. He froze. His eyes darted around the vehicle. The air smelled faintly of metal. That's when he noticed it. The tiny red light blinking beneath the dashboard. A listening device. They weren't just following him. They were inside his world. Marcus yanked it out and crushed it under his heel, but it was too late. The betrayal wasn't just from strangers. It was from his own technology, his own trust in the world around him. The conspiracy deepens back at his safe house. Marcus paced like a trapped animal. His mind kept racing. Who could he trust? The boy? Was the child even real? Or just another piece of manipulation? And Eleanor? Was she still alive? Or was he only chasing ghosts? He turned the recorder on again, replaying the voices. Then something strange caught his attention. In the background of the tape, faint but distinct, was Eleanor's voice. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't begging. She was reciting numbers. A code. Marcus grabbed a notepad and scribbled them down. 1743-822. What did it mean? A location? A password? Coordinates? The more he looked, the more it consumed him. He stayed up until dawn, piecing together patterns, connecting the dots. Every number pointed to a government facility in Virginia, an abandoned research lab. At least, that's what the public believed. But Marcus knew better now. Nothing was abandoned. Everything was connected. The voices return. Just as he began forming a plan, the phone rang again. The same child's voice, trembling. Sir, they know you're coming. But don't stop. Please. If you stop, she dies. Marcus closed his eyes, gripping the phone so hard it nearly cracked. His heart split between terror and determination. Whoever this child was, real or not, their voice gave him something he had lost. Hope. And in that moment, Marcus made his decision. He wasn't waiting for the government. He wasn't waiting for Harold or the FBI. He was going to Virginia. He was going to that facility. He was going to bring Eleanor home, or die trying. The sun hadn't risen yet when Marcus set out toward Virginia. The roads were nearly empty, lined with shadows that stretched like skeletal fingers. His hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale, but his eyes burned with the fire of a man who had nothing left to lose. The numbers Eleanor had whispered in the recording, 17, 43, 8 to 22, echoed in his head. Every time he repeated them, he felt her presence, as if she were guiding him through the darkness. But beneath that fire burned fear. Not fear of dying. Marcus had long made peace with that possibility. What gnawed at him was the thought of Eleanor's suffering, the image of her tied, silenced, hidden away by faceless men in suits. It hollowed him out. The highway stalker. Marcus noticed it first in his rearview mirror. A single pair of headlights trailing him, steady, unblinking. Not too close, not too far. Just there. His stomach dropped. He slowed down. The car slowed. He sped up. So did they. Marcus's pulse hammered in his temples. He pulled off the highway at a gas station, pretending to stop for fuel. The headlights followed, then parked a distance away. The figure inside didn't move. He filled his tank, his eyes never leaving the car. His hand slid inside his jacket, fingers brushing the cold steel of the pistol Harold had given him. He decided to test them. He got back into his car, drove away slowly, then took a sharp right into an abandoned service road. Dust kicked up behind him as he killed his lights. The other car followed for a few seconds, then stopped at the mouth of the road. Its lights flickered once, like a silent warning, before turning back toward the highway. Marcus sat in the darkness, chest heaving. They weren't trying to kill him, not yet. They were shepherding him, herding him toward something bigger. The facility. By dawn, Marcus reached the edge of the forest where the abandoned research lab was rumored to stand. On paper, it was a decommissioned government site. Locals whispered about strange noises at night, vans that came and went with no explanation. The road leading there was cracked and overgrown, swallowed by weeds. Crows circled overhead, their caws sharp in the stillness. He parked his car behind a cluster of trees, packed a flashlight, pistol, and the recorder into his bag, then began his trek. The deeper he went, the more unnatural the silence felt. No insects, no rustling leaves, just silence, heavy and suffocating. The kind of silence that made you believe you weren't alone. Finally, he saw it. The outline of the facility. Concrete walls scarred with age, windows shattered, vines crawling up like veins. It looked dead. But Marcus knew better. Dead things didn't hum. And beneath the silence, he could hear it, the faint buzz of electricity. Inside the walls, he pushed through a broken gate and slipped inside. The air smelled of rust and chemicals, sharp enough to sting his nose. His flashlight cut through the dark hallways, revealing peeling paint, broken tiles, and graffiti left by trespassers. But then, he saw something that didn't belong. Fresh footprints in the dust, multiple pairs, big, small, recent. He followed them down a hallway until he reached a heavy steel door. It was slightly ajar, a sliver of white light spilling into the corridor. Marcus pushed it open, pistol raised. Inside, his blood ran cold. Banks of computers glowed softly, their screens alive with streams of code and surveillance footage. Not abandoned at all, still very much active. Cameras showed highways, schools, even private living rooms. Faces flashed across the screens, tagged with names, numbers, predictions. Future threat level, high. Marcus stumbled forward, breath shallow. Eleanor had been right. The program wasn't just a rumor. It was here, alive, devouring people's lives before they even knew they were suspects. The glass chamber. Then he saw it. At the far end of the lab, behind a thick glass wall, was a small chamber. Inside, sitting on a metal chair, was Eleanor. Her wrists were bound, her face pale, but her eyes locked onto his instantly. They widened, filling with recognition, with desperate hope. "Eleanor," Marcus whispered, pressing his hand against the glass. She shook her head violently, mouthing words he couldn't hear. "Don't. It's a trap." And then, before he could react, the overhead lights flared. A voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Marcus, you finally arrived. Right on schedule." Marcus spun around, gun raised, but no one was there. The voice was everywhere, bouncing off the walls, calm and cruel. Did you really think you'd come this far without our permission? We've been guiding you. The boy, the messages, the tape, all breadcrumbs. You were never the hunter, Marcus, you were the bait. The trap springs. Suddenly, metal shutters slammed down over the exits. The computers flickered, screens filling with his face, his name. Marcus Hale. Threat level, extreme. Eleanor pounded on the glass, tears streaming down her face. Marcus's chest burned with rage. What do you want from us? He shouted. The voice chuckled. We want exactly what you've been giving us. Fear, obedience, submission. You see, Marcus, you're not here to save Eleanor. You're here to break. The floor beneath him vibrated. Panels slid open, revealing drones, sleek machines with blinking red eyes, rising from hidden compartments. Marcus fired his gun, the shot echoing, sparks flying as a bullet ricocheted off one of the machines. He ducked, rolled, fired again, the smell of gunpowder mixing with the stench of ozone. But no matter how many he dropped, more emerged, a mechanical swarm designed not to kill him outright, but to exhaust him. The voices return. In the chaos, his phone buzzed. Against all logic, against all sense, Marcus answered. The child's voice trembled. Don't fight them, sir. Listen to me. There's a way out. Under the floor. Panel 17. Marcus's eyes darted across the room. Amid the chaos, he spotted it. Panel 17, etched faintly into the floor. With his last ounce of strength, he dived, pried it open and dropped into the darkness below. He landed hard in a maintenance tunnel, air thick with dust. Above him, the voice roared with fury. Run, Marcus. Run as far as you can. But remember, no one escapes the program. The tunnel of secrets. The tunnel stretched endlessly, pipes hissing with steam, water dripping from corroded valves. Marcus limped through, flashlight flickering, and then he saw something that froze him. The tunnel walls were lined with photographs, hundreds, maybe thousands. Faces of men, women, children, each tagged with words, deceased, eradicated, silenced. Marcus's heart sank as his flashlight landed on one photo near the end. It was Eleanor. Her picture stamped with a word that nearly drove him to his knees. The tunnel was suffocating. Every breath Marcus took carried the weight of rust and decay, as though the very walls were inhaling with him. He kept moving, limping but steady. Eleanor's photograph burned into his mind. Pending. The word wasn't just a label, it was a death sentence waiting to be signed. Somewhere above, machines' word and voices echoed through hidden speakers, searching, hunting. He knew they weren't going to let him leave alive. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was an enemy of the program. The deeper Marcus moved, the colder it grew. His flashlight flickered across faded chalk markings on the tunnel walls. Arrows, codes, numbers, some fresh, some old. Then one phrase stopped him in his tracks. Written in hurried handwriting were the words, "Trust the boy." His blood ran cold. The ghostly call. As if on cue, his phone buzzed. He hesitated, then answered. The child's voice came through, but this time it wasn't just fear. It was urgency, command, desperation all mixed together. Marcus, you can't save her if you don't save yourself first. They'll break you before you reach her. Follow my directions. Marcus swallowed hard. Who are you? Why are you helping me? The boy's breathing was ragged. I can't say yet. They'll hear. Just move, sir. Right now. Turn left at the pipes, don't stop. Marcus obeyed, his heart pounding. The boy guided him through twists and turns he never would have found on his own. It felt as though the child knew the labyrinth like he had lived inside it. The tunnel betrayal. But then, footsteps, heavy, synchronized, coming from behind. Marcus froze, pressed against the wall, listening. Soldiers. Not drones this time, but armed men, boots scraping metal, voices sharp and commanding. Target is in the south tunnels. Move fast. He's priority 1. Marcus's pulse raced. He crouched low, crawling through a narrow side shaft as the boy's voice whispered, Keep moving, don't let them corner you. But as Marcus emerged into a wider chamber, he found himself staring down the barrel of a rifle. Drop it, Marcus. His heart sank. The voice belonged to someone he once trusted, Congressman Harold Kent. Harold's betrayal. Marcus's pistol shook in his hand. Harold? What are you doing here? Harold stepped out of the shadows, his face lined with guilt, yet firm with resolve. He was flanked by 2 soldiers, rifles aimed at Marcus. I warned you not to trust anyone, Harold said softly. Even me. Marcus's chest burned with rage. You knew. You led me into this. Harold lowered his weapon slightly, his voice trembling. I tried to protect you, Marcus, but once you step into the program, there's no out. They're watching everything, every call, every move. The boy guiding you, he's real, but he's doomed. Just like Eleanor will be if you don't walk away now. Walk away? Marcus hissed. She's my wife. Harold's eyes darkened. And if you keep going, you won't live to see her again. Neither will she. The fight in the chamber. Before Marcus could answer, the boy's voice cut in through his phone, louder, defiant. Don't listen to him, he's lying. He sold Eleanor out for his seat in Congress. Run, Marcus, run! The soldiers flinched at the sudden noise. Marcus seized the moment. He swung his pistol upward and fired. The bullet struck a pipe overhead, releasing a blast of scalding steam into the chamber. Soldiers shouted, blinded by the haze. Marcus lunged, tackling Harold to the ground. The 2 men wrestled, fists slamming against concrete, years of trust collapsing into rage. You betrayed her, Marcus roared, his knuckles bloody. Harold coughed, spitting blood. You don't understand. You think this is about her? This is about everyone. She was just the spark. The hidden files. Amid the chaos, Harold's jacket ripped open. A flash drive spilled out, clattering across the floor. Marcus snatched it up instinctively. The boy's voice urged him through the phone. That's it. That's the proof. Keep it safe. Don't let them take it. Marcus shoved it into his pocket, ducked another rifle shot, and sprinted down a side corridor. The soldiers gave chase, bullets sparking against the walls, the roar of boots echoing in the narrow tunnel. The revelation. He finally stumbled into another chamber, smaller, darker. Computers whirred softly here too, their screens casting ghostly light. He pulled the flash drive from his pocket, jammed it into a port, and watched the files load. What he saw made his stomach drop. Thousands of profiles. Citizens flagged as threats not for crimes committed, but for potential future actions. Mothers, fathers, children, all categorized, tracked, and silenced if their risk level rose too high. And then, he saw Eleanor's name. Eleanor Hale, risk probability, 98% status, pending termination. Marcus staggered back, his chest hollow. Eleanor wasn't just a prisoner, she was a target marked for erasure. The boy reveals himself. As Marcus tried to steady himself, his phone buzzed one last time. The boy's voice came through, softer, broken. You see now, sir? They don't just take people, they take futures. They took mine. Marcus froze. What do you mean? The boy's breathing cracked. I was supposed to be gone years ago, but I escaped. I've been hiding in their wires, their machines. That's why I can see everything. That's how I found you. But they're coming for me too. I can't hold them off much longer. The line went dead. Marcus stared at the phone, trembling. The boy wasn't just a scared child. He was something else. Something born of pain, of survival inside the very system that had destroyed his life. And now Marcus realized, the boy was his only ally. The final pursuit. Suddenly alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the chamber. A mechanical voice announced, Subject Hale located. Termination protocol engaged. Metal shutters slammed down. Drones poured into the chamber. Soldiers stormed in from both ends. Marcus gripped his pistol, his jaw set. He wasn't leaving without Eleanor, and if the program wanted him dead, they were going to have to earn it. The night fell heavy over Dallas. the city's skyline glowing faintly against the horizon. Yet inside Ava's apartment, it felt as if the world had stopped spinning. The silence was suffocating. She sat curled on the couch, her knees drawn to her chest, staring at nothing in particular. The shadows in the room seemed louder than the faint hum of the refrigerator. Her heart was torn between guilt and longing. She kept replaying the sound of Ryan's voice, the softness when he said her name, the way his eyes searched hers as if begging her to let him in again. But just as quickly, another memory intruded. The night she caught him, the way the truth had shattered her like glass. Every time she felt herself drifting toward him, that wound reopened, raw and unhealed. Ryan across town couldn't sleep either. He sat at his desk, an old photograph of the two of them in his hands. They were smiling, carefree, before life got complicated, before mistakes were made. He whispered into the emptiness, "I'm sorry, Ava. I'd give anything to undo the past." His chest tightened as tears stung his eyes because he knew no matter how many apologies he whispered into the night, the one person who needed to hear them wasn't ready. The next morning, Ava decided to escape the suffocating stillness. She drove to her favorite diner, the one she and Ryan used to visit on lazy Sundays. She hesitated at the door, almost turning back, but hunger and nostalgia pushed her forward. As fate would have it, Ryan was already there, sitting at a corner booth with a cup of coffee. Their eyes locked. Time froze. For a moment, neither spoke. Ava's breath caught in her throat and Ryan's hands trembled slightly as he set down his mug. She wanted to turn and run, but her legs betrayed her, carrying her closer to him. "Morning," Ryan said softly, his voice cautious, as if one wrong word could make her shatter all over again. "Morning," Ava replied, her tone flat, but not cold. She slid into the booth across from him, surprising even herself. They sat in silence for a while, the clinking of dishes and chatter of other customers filling the void between them. Then Ryan leaned forward, his voice trembling with sincerity. "I know I don't deserve it, but thank you for sitting here with me. Ava, I need you to know that I regret everything. Not a day goes by that I don't wish I could rewrite that night." Ava stared at her untouched coffee. "You broke me, Ryan. You made me question everything I believed about love, about us. Do you even understand what that did to me?" Her voice cracked, betraying the strength she tried to hold. Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "I do, and it kills me every single day. But Ava, I love you. That hasn't changed. It never will." Her chest ached at his words because deep down she still loved him too, no matter how much she tried to bury it. She wanted to hate him, to let anger be stronger than love, but her heart refused to let go. She finally met his gaze. "Love isn't always enough, Ryan. Sometimes, the wounds are too deep to heal." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ryan swallowed hard, fighting back the desperation rising in his throat. He wanted to argue, to plead, but he saw the pain etched into her face. Pushing too hard now would only drive her further away. Instead, he whispered, "Then let me spend the rest of my life proving to you that they can heal." Ava looked away, her eyes glistening. She didn't respond. She couldn't. But as she sat there, with Ryan's presence stirring both her anger and her longing, she realized that maybe, just maybe, the story between them wasn't finished yet. The following week passed in fragments, half-lived days and sleepless nights. Ava tried burying herself in work, meetings, and long walks through Dallas, but no matter what she did, Ryan's voice lingered in her mind. Every word he had spoken at the diner replayed itself like an old record. "Then let me spend the rest of my life proving to you that they can heal." It both comforted her and terrified her. One evening, she visited her sister Emily, hoping for distraction. Instead, Emily poured her a glass of wine and gave her the kind of knowing look only sisters could manage. "You saw him again, didn't you?" Emily asked gently. Ava sighed, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "Yeah, At the diner. I didn't plan it, but when I saw him, I couldn't walk away. Emily leaned back, studying her. And how did it feel? Ava closed her eyes, remembering the way Ryan's gaze clung to hers, filled with regret and hope. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, like one step forward could either save me or destroy me all over again. Emily reached across the table and took her hand. Ava, I can't tell you what to do, but I will say this. Love isn't about never being hurt. It's about deciding who's worth risking the hurt for. The words struck something deep inside her, stirring the truth she had been avoiding. Ryan had hurt her, yes, but he had also been the only man who truly saw her. Every dream, every flaw, every hidden piece of her heart, he had once cherished them all. Meanwhile, Ryan was waging his own silent war. Nights found him wandering the city, driving past places they used to visit, whispering apologies into the air as if she could hear them. He started journaling his thoughts, writing letters he'd never send, pouring out the ache in his chest. One evening he stood outside Ava's apartment building, staring up at the windows, but he didn't knock. He was terrified of pushing too hard, of making her retreat forever. Fate, however, wasn't done with them. It was a rainy Friday night when Ava found herself at the grocery store, hood pulled over her head, trying to hurry through the aisles. And there he was again, Ryan, his shirt damp, hair tousled, pushing a cart filled with nothing but cereal and bottled water. Their eyes met across the produce section, and time slowed the way it always did when they crossed paths. Hey, Ryan said softly, almost as if he wasn't sure she'd acknowledge him. Ava nodded, her chest tightening. Hey. They stood there, awkward and uncertain, surrounded by strangers who had no idea two fractured hearts were colliding in aisle 4. Finally, Ryan broke the silence. Ava, can we just talk? Not about the past, not about the pain. Just talk, please. Her defenses rose instantly, but then she saw the raw vulnerability in his expression, the man who wasn't too proud to beg, the man who was willing to strip away every layer of ego just to be near her. Against her better judgment, she whispered, Okay. They sat in his car afterward, rain tapping against the windshield, the city lights blurring in the wet glass. For the first time in months, they laughed, really laughed, about something trivial, and for a brief moment it felt like old times. Like maybe the love they thought was lost had only been waiting in the shadows, patient and unyielding. Yet when the laughter faded, so did the illusion. Ava's eyes grew distant. Ryan, I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't even know if I should. He reached for her hand, but stopped halfway, afraid she'd pull away. His voice trembled. I don't need an answer right now, I just need you to know. I'm not going anywhere this time. I'll wait, as long as it takes. Ava's heart pounded, torn between the safety of walking away and the dangerous beauty of believing him. She stared at him, at the man who had broken her and still held her heart in his hands. And for the first time, she realized her choice wasn't between forgiving him or not. It was between living in yesterday's pain or daring to step into tomorrow's uncertain promise. The storm hadn't let up. Rain pounded against the windows as Ava sat in her apartment hours after leaving Ryan's car. She hadn't touched her dinner, hadn't changed out of her soaked clothes. Her mind was spinning, every memory of their love and every scar from their mistakes colliding inside her chest. She walked to the balcony, letting the cold air wash over her. Somewhere below, the city carried on, unaware that her entire life was teetering on a single decision. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Ryan. I'll be outside, not to force you, not to beg, just to let you know I meant what I said. I'm here. Ava's breath caught. She stepped inside, grabbed her coat, and before she realized it, she was running down the stairwell. Outside, Ryan stood in the rain without an umbrella, his hair plastered to his forehead, his hands trembling in the cold. The sight of him, so broken, so unguarded, shattered the last wall she'd built. She walked up to him slowly, every step heavier than the last. Ryan's eyes searched hers, filled with questions, fear, and hope all at once. Finally, she whispered, her voice cracking, "Ryan, I'm tired of running. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. But tonight, I choose you." The words hit him harder than any storm ever could. His chest rose sharply as he let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Tears mingled with raindrops as he reached for her, and this time she didn't pull away. She fell into his arms, and for the first time in forever, it felt like home. Their kiss wasn't perfect. It was messy, desperate, soaked in rain and tears. But it was real. It was forgiveness. It was love. It was two broken souls daring to believe they could be whole again. And as the storm raged on, Ava realized something profound. Healing didn't mean erasing the past. It meant choosing to fight for a future stronger than the pain that came before. Michael and Eleanor's story reminds us that even in the darkest corners of power, truth can break through, love can endure, and the courage of a single person can shake an empire. But the question is, what would you do if you were in Michael's shoes? Would you risk everything for the truth, even if it meant losing the person you love most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear your take on this. And if this story gripped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so more people can experience it. New emotional American stories are uploaded every week here on Topcore. Don't miss the next one. Because sometimes, the most powerful battles aren't fought on the battlefield. They're fought in the heart.